needed to know what was wrong. I had to find out what it was. And
the first thing I wanted to have is no toxic cleaning products.
Just because you have brain change doesn't mean you can't still do things. You may do it differently. You might need more time.
I decided to turn my disability into my ability, and around 7th and 8th grade, I started playing able-bodied sports.
If we were knowledgeable, if we were educated, we would have solved science earlier.
You battle for every single inch of help.
A New Perspective, hosted by Tim Sutton.
This broadcast is produced by Griffo Productions. Brought to you by A Better Understanding, giving you a better understanding.
Hey everybody, this is Tim Sutton with A New Perspective. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2. We're back in the studio bringing more people out to show you who's doing big things in the special populations or helping people with disabilities, working with people with disabilities. And, you know, I don't believe in disabilities because everybody has abilities. Sometimes they just do things differently. But the purpose of my show is to bring people on who are making a difference in the communities around us, and some even further distance away from where we are outside of Richmond, Virginia. If you're not familiar with me, just to let you know, I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I retired back in December and had spent the past 20 years in my law enforcement career working a lot with families dealing with autism, the autism journey, intellectual disability journey, Alzheimer's, dementia journey, and just being a support and traveling around teaching, training public safety officers to understand what's going on. So when we did respond to situations, we could do our job a little more effectively by understanding what the families were dealing with and going through, and being able to speak intelligently to these families about their life situation, because many of them live such a secluded life and don't think other people understand what's going on in their world. So it's a comfort for a lot of these families to see the guy or girl with the gun and the badge that goes out there, keeps everybody safe, understands a little bit about their world. And I think it makes a huge impact on those families. And, you know, there's too much law enforcement now. There are too many walls being built up. So this is just an opportunity and a way to break that wall, break those barriers down, so we can be out there to protect and serve all populations, not just particular populations, but every single person in the community that we're served. So today we've got an amazing guest. I've been researching all about him. Luckily, my producer, Anthony Griffo with Griffo Productions, turned me on to him, and I've been reading about him all day. His name is John Theissen. He has John Theissen Children's Foundation, and it started in 1992 out of some amazing circumstances. And I think the key here, we had talked a little bit before we started the show, he and I, about how you can take some bad situations, unfortunate situations, and how you can make and get some good to come out of it. You know, sometimes it just, at those bleak times, you're just wondering, what in the world is the purpose of this? Why are we having to deal with this? Why am I having to deal with this? But as time progresses, sometimes you see how that incident or those situations allowed a better situation to form, where more people can be reached, more people can be helped. So right now, what I'd like to introduce you to John Theissen.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Doing just fine, John. I appreciate you coming in. And just so everybody knows, you're up in New York, and I guess been there quite a while. But about your foundation, just give us a little information about you and what you're doing and the goals that you accomplished and goals that you still have for the future for your foundation.
So I appreciate the introduction. That was very nice of you. And you mentioned Anthony, the producer, and he actually, at a young age, started volunteering with my foundation and doing tremendous work. And it's so nice to see him grow in this area of what his mission in life is, and film and production and whatnot. And he's doing a great job. But the foundation that I started, it was 32 years ago that I started, as you mentioned, coming on 33 with the annual holiday toy drive in 1992. And right. I didn't go to school or anything for this. I didn't even think about it when I was growing up. I was a normal kid. I played sports. I grew up from a big family. And in 11th grade, I started to get headaches, and they came on more frequently. And at first we just thought they were allergies. And, this was in the 80s. This was like 88, 89. And they kept telling me I'd go to the doctor and I'd say, it's allergies. You probably have sinusitis, etc. And I was diagnosed with a brain tumor on September 28th of 1988. And those headaches that I were getting were from a tumor that was growing. And I remember coming home to my mom's house after I had the CAT scan done, and she told me, John, it's not good news. It's a brain tumor. And I didn't think anything of it. And I remember going over, she was crying at the table. I just had the CAT scan about an hour before that. And when I came home and I saw her crying, I thought, I had no idea what she was crying about. I actually thought someone had passed away, not even thinking, you're 17 years old. You don't feel vulnerable at all. You feel like you can defeat the world and nothing's going to beat you. And when I found out, I went over and I slammed my hand on the table and I started crying. I said, how long do I have to live? And it was, I left high school that whole year. I was out because of the headaches and whatnot. But that December 8th of 1988, I was walking up to a children's hospital, which was back then Schneider's Children's Hospital here on Long Island. It's now Cohen's. And I remember walking up with my mom the day before surgery, my mom and my girlfriend at the time. And I felt silly. I said, Mom, why do I got to be with the kids? They're going to treat me like a kid. I don't want to see any kids sick. And, they're going to give me crayons and coloring book and whatnot. They took me up on the 4th floor, which happened to be the oncology floor. Now, I was supposed to be on the surgical floor, and they said that they didn't have room. So it was actually it was meant to be being on the oncology floor. And I'll tell you why. The day when I got admitted and they brought me upstairs and I was in my room, in walked the doctors and nurses were talking about my operation the next day. And in walked this little girl in pajamas and introduced herself. She goes, hi, I'm Tasha. Welcome to Med 4. And the doctor, I remember the nurse being like, Tasha, we got to talk to John. We got to talk to him and stuff. He'll talk to you later. And I thought for a second, I said, my God, what is this little girl doing walking around by herself in pajamas? Right. And it turned out that little Tasha, there she is right there. It turned out that Tasha would be in and out of the hospital for weeks at a time getting treatment with cancer. And she had no family support. Nobody would ever visit her. And the next day after my surgery, during my surgery, she kept asking my mom. She only knew me for a day now. And she's like, when's John coming back up? When's this? And I'm very I have a lot of faith in, I'm very spiritual. And I know there were 42 other floors on that. There were 42 other rooms on that floor, and Tasha picked my room, and it was meant to be. And it was during the holiday times, and a few days had gone by, and I could constantly hear Tasha in my room and trying to wake me up. And as you see with that picture, she was sitting next to me while I'm sleeping, trying to wake me up and just always trying to make me feel better. And she was like the fun in the room. And I was in and out of it. So it was more interaction with my family. But when they were having a holiday party and her family promised to come show up and take her down, the morning of the party, she came in and she was crying, and all the kids were going to get gifts and spend time with the family, and her family never showed up. And my mom said, Tasha, don't worry, I'll take you down to the party. And this was a 7-year-old girl. And she said, John can't get out of bed. He's not allowed out of bed. And then she got so upset. She's like, well, John's not going to get a gift. He's not going to see Santa Claus. This is how she was. And I could hear it all. So my mom took her down, and when it was her time, an hour or so to get a gift, she went up, she grabbed Tasha's hand and went up. And when Santa Claus there went to hand her a teddy bear, she says, I don't want it for me. I want it for my friend upstairs to make him feel better. And that's how it was. And that's how what really started. I couldn't believe it. And she threw it on top of me and woke me up. And a few days later, I walked out of that hospital, and I said, Mom, I turned to my mom, and that was in 88. And I said, I'm going to be back to help out kids like that.
Wow. And that little angel showed up in your life, and and the rest was history, and what she let you do. Well, we're going to watch a video real quick, if you don't mind, and get back to the discussion. Anthony's going to enlighten us a little bit.
The mission of this organization is to help sick and underprivileged children in any capacity possible. It started as a simple holiday toy drive, and today, 25 years later, it's a year-round organization. Not only do we do toys, we grant wishes, help families with medical expenses, do all kinds of programs.
He'll do birthday parties for kids who are sick and underprivileged.
He has his little office in the back, but it's really just a place set up for children to have a great time. Just lined with toys and games for kids in need. Toys for the holidays, for birthdays if you can't afford them.
He just shows up and he's like, I can help and everything. It's a lot.
Michelle will just call me out of the blue and just ask how I'm doing. She's really, really special. Going through what she has, different heart procedures and different illnesses like that. It's something that a child her age should never have to go through.
Just hearing the stories and hearing some of the families saying he's made such a difference in our lives, it was just great to hear that. And if we can come in and support him so that he can continue to do that for other people in the community, we're more than happy to help.
It's a great community effort. They're always there for me, and I'm always there for them.
He just loves where he's from, takes care of his own.
So that's a little bit about what you do and what your organization is doing. It's amazing to see those little angels or little things that happen in our life where we wonder why we are where we are at that time. And just the impact that something simple, this little girl who was in an unfortunate situation, but she wasn't dwelling on her situation. She wanted to make you happy and do what she could. So that pretty much sparked everything that led to the foundation.
That sparked everything. And, as it started out as a simple holiday toy drive back in '92. And I actually, I tell when I'm speaking to kids in classes, I ask them what a typewriter is, because that's what I used. I used the typewriter. Yeah. And most of them know it at least, but I used the typewriter and I typed up a single page letter about the situation, and I was holding a toy drive. And back then there was no social media, the computers weren't like they are now, and no internet and whatnot. And I remember hand walking flyers all around to the neighborhood. And that first holiday season, we collected 800 toys, and I thought that was thrilling. I did it on my parents' front lawn, and every year it got bigger and bigger. Right. And I had a full-time job while I was doing this. But then I realized that there was so much more. Like I was listening to these families that were losing their homes when a kid was getting sick. Kids were going to school without school supplies. Parents can't afford the medical treatments, this and that. It's just snowball. And so I started to really focus on the nonprofit industry. And I was taking classes in Manhattan at the Nonprofit Management Center on grants and nonprofit management. And it just snowballed. And in 2003, I was working at a pharmaceutical company for years. This company, Henry Schein, a really big company, and doing really well. And I got my first grant to do this full time, and it just snowballed from there. I've since now up here, we've been voted best charity on Long Island 10 years in a row. On Charity Navigator, which rates nonprofits, we have 100%. And we basically, the mission, everyone asks what the foundation does. I never wanted to limit it to one thing. So what we do is help sick and underprivileged children up to 17 years old in any capacity possible. We provide medical transportation. We help with family wishes. I know you mentioned children with autism, right. And we actually have a pony therapy program where I had a child with autism come, and he was nonverbal. I mean, I think his mom said he had spoken one word in his young 8 years, and 20 minutes without a pony, he got on Surf. The pony's name is Surf, and actually started giving him demands that we were telling him to do. So wow. it's just
equine therapy. That's amazing therapy. Anything with the equines, and I know a lot of time it's used with the elderly as well. But you have how did you get hold of the horse? How did that come about?
So my daughter started riding. When I say unfortunately, my daughter is a really blessed national ranked equestrian. Like she's an unbelievable rider, and she's 15 now, but she's been riding since she's 5. My wife took her to a horseback riding party when she was 5, and that was the end of it. And now it's her life. And Surf was her first pony that she rode, and I fell in love with him. As you mentioned, adults. I found myself, when she wasn't there, going to the barn and walking him. He's a big dog. He's a small pony. He's not a mini, and he's just incredible. And he's made the difference in the lives of so many children that like have been emotionally and mentally abused. And and children with autism and children with cancer.
Yeah, I mean we've got a couple places here locally, and any children, anybody's been through any trauma, PTSD, it's a great outlet and a great way for them to connect. And like you say, you hear a lot about individuals that are not speaking, and all of a sudden they have the interaction with an animal, horse, or even the service dogs, and they start being able to do things that you never would expect them to be able to do. It just opens that door.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's impressive everything you're doing. And I know one of your videos you talk about the back to school, about their studies show that some kids, they don't go back to school that first week because your first day back to school after summer, everybody's got the new clothes and they want to show off. But you've got some that don't have that ability or opportunity, and you and your organization are trying to provide a way for them to be comfortable going back that first day. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so all the kids, whether it's a financial situation or a physical or mental issue, then they're all referred to us through social workers. Everything has to get to a social worker. Right. So come in August, all the social workers now, they know of the program. So they send over a letter with their requests and their students. And I know a lot, we've been doing the back to school program for coming on 24, 25 years. And we started just giving brand new backpack filled with school supplies. And I noticed the first couple of years, kids would come there with shoes that were ripped or clothes that just didn't fit. And there was one child actually where his toes were hanging out of the tip of his shoe. And I had asked him, and the mom just said, I just can't afford it. And some of these kids that we help out are just living in one bedroom shelters, and it's just terrible. So we actually started doing $150 gift cards to Old Navy, so the kids can not only go back to school with all that, they can get new clothes and school supplies. Because these kids, as you mentioned, they were staying home the first week because they were too embarrassed.
Right.
So it generally probably takes care of 10 to 15,000 children every August and September up here, with gift cards and school supplies, depending on our budget. It's a great program. Another program that we do that I've been doing for 12 to 15 years now is a Smiles and Miles transportation program. Right. We actually provide transportation to and from hospitals. So the parents, of course, in New York City, it's a whole different ballgame. Right. So kids that are getting treated in New York City, we actually provide transportation to the parents. So they don't have to worry about parking, tolls, anything. We have a driver that drives them there, waits the whole day, drives them back in our foundation van. And the Smiles part is we take kids out to ball games and shows and whatnot, and we handle all that stuff.
That's absolutely amazing. I just, and one thing I do like is kind of the open-ended mission statement because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself to just this or this, but wherever there's a need, you want to be able to adapt your mission statement to be able to address that need as well. And, things come about that you never would have expected to come about in the schools. And here you go with SURF and all of these things that you're doing. It's just I hope you understand the impact that you have on so many people's lives. And how, as far as employees, have you got employees working for you? Or is it?
So I actually have a part-time who actually she probably puts in 50 hours a week, but only gets paid for 20 minimum wage, but she doesn't care. She actually I was very close to her godson, and 20 years ago, his wish when I first met him was a Mike Piazza signed bat. So I had gone to my contact at the Mets and I gave that to him, and she just started volunteering ever since then. And we have a board of directors with 10 volunteers, and and it's the volunteers and the whole community. I've always said, this is like how you mentioned, like, I hope you understand. It's honestly, it's like people like yourself and people in the community who support me. You're trying to bring awareness to my foundation. And you mentioned prior before the show, you said, I don't know who's going to be watching. So whether it's one person or not, and it's not even so much about the donations. It could be someone who really needs the help.
Right.
So I'm just, honestly, I'm so blessed. I still today take 10 meds a day. I've had over 17 operations. Next week, I have to go get my 61st MRI on my brain, which I get once a year. So, but I'm blessed. Nothing ever stops me. I'm the luckiest person in the world.
That's amazing. Well, we're gonna take a quick break to hear from a sponsor, and when we get back, I want to talk a little more about Tasha.
Great.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay, let's do this. One down, 2 to go. Gaining momentum here. Let's try confident. Much better. And that's a wrap.
And that was Notions. If you have any interest in that, please feel free to reach out to Griffo Productions, and they can help you learn more and more about Notions. So back to your foundation, and you told us about Tasha and how she really, I guess, lit that spark. You said she was 7 years old. Is that right? 7 years old?
Yeah, I was 7. She was 7.
You were 17. What happened to Tasha after you left the hospital? Was there more contact, or how did that go?
So that's a great question. And usually when I talk about Tasha, it's the first question that's asked, and it's the obvious question. Unfortunately, I left the hospital before that, and I was just, honestly, I was so traumatized by what I went through and my 10-hour brain surgery and seeing all the kids. I mean, I remember getting wheeled down to the hospital room and to this surgery, and a 12-year-old girl was standing in a nurse's station, and she told me as I'm getting wheeled down, she goes, "Bundle up, it's cold down there." And I thought to myself, this poor girl must have made the trip so many times. And I left the hospital before Tasha, and it didn't really hit me what Tasha did for me. I mean, I was always so aware of it, and I couldn't believe everything, but I had to go through radiation. I had to go through 5 reconstructive sinus surgeries. So really from the time I was 17 to 22, 23, I was just a mess. And although I had started the holiday toy drive, it really didn't hit me till probably about 92, 93. And I said, I really need to get in touch with her. And I had local papers trying to reach out. And back then there was no, I couldn't really connect with the hospital. And, which is unfortunate because back then it was paper records, and I probably would have had more of a chance than I do now. But over the years, I've been on different shows, hoping to find Tasha. I mean, shows that the Steve Harvey show, NBC, ABC, all those shows. And just never any luck. And it was about a year and a half ago, a friend of mine knows someone who works at the Yankees, and his wife turns out they retired and lived down in North Carolina. And through something my friend shared on the internet, she read it and reached out to me and was spot on about Tasha. Her nickname was Tish Tosh. And I was in room 410, and she was right across from the nurse's station, was right across from me. And you could always hear Tasha at night at the nurse's station. You'd be like, Tasha, because she had no one. And the doctor said that I spoke to said Tasha passed away about 2 years after I met her.
Oh, wow.
And to this day, our logo is a girl holding a teddy bear.
That's awesome. She made such a huge impact. And you wonder if she ever knew the impact she was going to make. But the thing is, there's got to be some family out there, Tasha's family. So, hopefully all the interviews and even this show, if people would just pass it on, I think it would be amazing to find out, who's out there that knew Tasha is related to Tasha, because just being made aware of the impact she made and the difference she's made in the world, even though she dealt with some unfortunate situations, is positive. Something out of your negative situation, your bad situation, her bad situation, something positive was able to come out of it. And, sometimes it's hard to see at the time, but you look back now 30 some years later and look at the impact that little girl had on you.
It's unbelievable.
All of these other people. Well, you've got some events coming up on the 31st of May and June 1st. Tell us a little bit about, you got the casino night, and you got another big night with the Giants.
Yeah, so another night we coming up May 31st. I actually have he was the obviously he's the head coach of the New York Giants, and he was last year's NFL Coach of the Year, Brian Dable. So I have him coming out over at Mulcahy's here in Wantor on Long Island, and we're going to do a big night with him, a meet and greet and a Q&A, and go over his whole history and whatnot, and where he got to be the Giants head coach. And he's a fan favorite, so I'm expecting hopefully a big turnout for that. And then the next night, we do a really big casino night, which is awesome. It's a casino night, which is very popular fundraiser. It's not what you think. It's not like when you go to like a local church or bingo or a moose lodge or anything. It's actually when you go in, you get free money to start with $100, and at the end, people keep buying money at the cashier. $20 donation gets you $200 in chips, etc. And we have all professional dealers, all professional dealers and tables. And at the end of the night, the one with the most chips is usually around like $30,000 to $40,000. And then we usually do trips and stuff like that. So the top 15 get to do prizes, and besides doing raffles and auctions and whatnot. And it's just one big thing that the foundation has done, and I take pride in this because I really don't know any other nonprofit where someone could walk into the founder or the executive director's office, and when there's a kid that's sick in the community. And speaking of you, a former law enforcement, I've worked with a ton of law enforcement up here where I run events. I run full-on fundraisers for kids and for law enforcement or anyone in the community that needs it. I spearhead the whole program. I get items together. I do live auctions. I put the whole thing through it. And since I've been doing that, just with those events alone, in the last 7 years, I've raised over $7 million that went either direct to the children or the families.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And you've even built the Family Fun Center.
The Family Fun Center is awesome.
Games, television.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, kids get to come. Kids who are sick or underprivileged get to come and do like a big, it's like kind of like a game center, do all games for free. And when we do birthday parties there, we do pizza, cake, everything for free, no charge, up to like 30 kids a party.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, if, like I said, we're outside of Richmond, but, the way the media is with the podcast and everything, there's no telling where people are going to be seeing this, hopefully, and learn more about what you're doing. If somebody wants to get involved, whether they're in New York or elsewhere in the country, what's the best way for them to contact you, get in touch with you and offer to help out?
Yeah, so they can go right on my website, which is www.jtcf.org for John Theissen Children's Foundation. I know my New York accent sometimes. People are like, F or S, or it's a tough accent. It's a long, some people say Long Island, and I've actually had out-of-towners that have said I have a Bostonian accent, which because my mom is from Boston. My mom's family is from Boston, but jtcf.org, which is John Theissen Children's Foundation. They can also call the office is 516-679-TOYS, 516-679-TOYS.
All right. Well, hopefully they'll have some people reaching out. And again, our producer, Anthony Griffo, he started working with you a long time ago. Yeah. So I'm sure if you got people that are eager and wanting and willing to work for you, help you do whatever, and have a passion for being out there helping the community deal with some of the unfortunate situations, please contact John. Please get in touch with his people and get out there. Can you think of one particular story where you showed up to help an individual or a family that really sticks out to you and made you realize at that point, what I'm doing is worth it?
12 years ago, I had a girl come to my wish room, and I had been helping her out with school supplies and whatnot. And she was so poor that when she was 3 years old, she was turning 8 at the time. When she was 3, she got diagnosed with sickle cell anemia. And that same year, she lost her mom. I brought her down to the wish room, and I told her name was Stephanie. I said, Stephanie, pick out whatever you want. Here's a bag. And she turned to me and she goes, Mr. Theissen, why are you giving me toys? And I said, I heard you're turning 8 years old tomorrow. And she looked at her dad and she said, Daddy, I thought I didn't have birthdays anymore. Ooh. And that was tough. That was 18 years after doing the foundation, 12, 13 years ago. And basically their lives fell apart when she was 3, and the daddy just couldn't afford it anymore. And they live in a small room. And that's the main one. And just, it's just, you think you heard the worst and another comes around. And I just, all I wanted, my mission in life is I've been given so many chances of life, and my mission is to just help as many people as possible.
And when you bless other people, you get blessed yourself. And
absolutely,
you're just you're an example of that. Well, John, I want to thank you. I know
Thank you.
The shows are 30 minutes and we get into some stuff, but I always tell people it affords us the opportunity to come back and have another discussion.
Thank you, Tim.
But I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for what you're doing.
I'm glad I got turned on to what you're doing. And again, give us the contact information because I want some people to reach out to you.
JTCF.org, John Theissen Children's Foundation.
All right, awesome. Well, I thank you for spending this time with me and sharing everything. It's very impressive, and I love to hear stories like this. And again, you're not the only one. I know there's so many people out there across the country, across the world doing some awesome stuff like this. Please feel free to reach out to me, Tim Sutton, The New Perspective, or Griffo Productions, because we need to let other people know what these special people are doing. And again, John, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for all you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right. Everybody, I just want to thank you for being here tonight, and thank John Theissen for being here, and appreciate hearing all about what he's doing. And hopefully we'll be back next week. Please feel free to reach out to me. You can hit me up on my Facebook, A New Perspective, hosted by Tim Sutton, or my website. It's tim-sutton.com. Please reach out and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Take care of yourself. Thanks for watching, and Dad, I love you.
This broadcast is produced by Griffo Productions.